For the first time since 2023 Season 1, we have a first-time champion. Valente's astonishing 8 wins in 11 rounds has put the field on notice, and he still has one to spare. Can he make it a 75% strike rate? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 12 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series. You'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Jake Sperry. Behind the scenes is our director, Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Magny-Cours is going to be a tough one for the 49. Chicanes and hairpins abound, so let's get a closer look at it with our track guide. Welcome to Circuit de Magny-Cours. Located about 3 hours south of Paris, the track is most famous for its nearly 2 decades of hosting the French Grand Prix. But it has seen a variety of open-wheel series, sports cars, and motorcycles compete during its history. With about 4.5 kilometers in length, or just under 3 miles, its 17 turns wind back and forth between a series of hairpins and chicanes. Notably, a few of the turns are modeled after famous corners from other tracks. Esterel's long, sweeping opening to the lap provides a serious challenge to kick things off. Then, the flat-out run up to Adelaide tests your precision with braking by smacking you in the face with the slowest corner on the track. Later, the Nürburgring and Imola chicanes do little to slow the car, but forces you to thread the needle on your way towards 2 other tight hairpins. But there are other notable turns that are unique to the circuit. The Grand Prix is the first you must tackle and is a swift double apexer that blends directly into Esterel. This means that any attempts at an overtake there are going to require some serious bravery. Chateau d'Eau will test your throttle control as the radius opens up and needs a good exit to make sure you aren't vulnerable on the run down to Lissay. The reputation of this track tells you to expect overtakes to be difficult, but a little aggression and some good braking should give you opportunities. All in all, after more than 60 years, French race fans have embraced this staple of motorsport in the country. Well, Jake, this is a track I'd say more commonly associated with more modern F1, so it'll be interesting to see how these cars take to it.
This is a circuit that definitely has thrown itself into the annals of history. The French Grand Prix is one that for a long time was one you could not replace on the Formula calendar. It went here, there, and everywhere. Made a home here at the Circuit de Magny-Cours as a place in the middle of nowhere. It's a track that folds in on itself and was built in the full inspiration of being a place to battle when you are Ligier and being that testing development ground. With these older machinery that you've got here today, one big key is that this is a stop-start circuit. So you're going to look at Adelaide. That's going to be key to getting a place done. You get a chance maybe at the 180-degree corner. You might get a chance to get it done. Chateau d'Eau might be a place you can throw one. But over to the Complexe du Lycée, I think that's going to be the key place at the ends of the laps to try and get through. It's going to be a first lap thrill and then a case of who can hold on to who, because this is going to be all about flinging through with an old school vibe here, Joe. Those chicanes at Nürburgring and Imola are throwbacks to the likes of, say, a Master Kink of days of old.
Yeah, quite swift. Not as much slowing down the car as it is just testing how precise you can be. Now, the precision has been in the hands of Andres Valenteus because every race that he's finished so far, he's only not won one of them. So he has been crowned champion already. Nieva unable to overtake him from here. Hissada in a close battle for that second spot in the points with Jorge. Bit of a jump back, but not too much down to Sanchez. He could still also try to catch up for P2, but it's a bit more of a distant hope for him. Verbruggen with an excellent season as he's been fighting with Seb Tixier, only 4 points separating those two. Then look at that fight for 7th with Salgado, Ho, Woodhouse, and Rossi, all of 29 points separating 4 drivers. That'll be fun here at the end of the season. What about here for the Formula 2 standings, Jake?
Well, for Michael Grissinger, it's all but wrapped up with a nice, neat bow here. 299 points is a very commendable achievement here. Mats Linden, though, does have to try and hold on to second in the championship with Jem Matzan putting himself in third with a great opportunity today to close that gap in. Kurt Clapper and Matthew Nelson are 4th and 5th, and look at how stacked it is back behind Matthew Nelson. Jonathan Jourdain, the oval specialist. David Tomaszki, who is there. Roberto Pangrazzi is there in 8th, and he will hope that he has got Tobias Hanvi for a bit of company in 9th, and he's not going to leapfrog over, and neither Jan Stefan either in 10th. It's the sort of day where the F2 Championship and the minor places, I think, are going to be really strong to see who's going to get what out of it here today.
Yeah, with so few cars, there's definitely opportunities for good points. Now, the one area that Nieva can put one over on Valenteus is the Cup of Nations. Spain still leads over Lithuania with a 29-point difference. He doesn't have to finish too far even behind Valenteus and still be able to bring that one home for his country. Singapore sitting in third with United States trailing all three of them. Still a chance for them to get onto the podium. We'll see whether or not that'll be the case. A bit distant between 6th and 7th, though. The UK and the Netherlands seeing a gap form, and it's kind of consistent from there on down, where drivers are, or countries rather, are quite far apart in points. But let's get our audience up to speed with what this race is going to look like. Jake?
Yeah, so this is the final round of the championship, round 12 of 12, and this is an iRacing official server. So what's this going to mean? Well, it's a 20-lap race first and foremost, so that's going to mean that these drivers will not need to make a pit stop, but everybody's going to be looking around at each other for how do I get a little bit quicker? It's open setup, so you can fettle and fine-tune the way that you would like to. There's no spare car here in this series, so if the car does break in any way, shape, or form, that's it. You're out the race. It's quite brutal in that aspect. And, of course, with any iRacing official server, the drive-through penalty limit is at 17 instant points, and disqualification is if you reach 25. So it's going to be a fine tightrope for these drivers today to try and get through this Magny-Cours circuit. Very easy to understeer around here and find yourself picking up 1x here, 1x there.
Well, as we watch the last bit of qualifying, no surprises that Valenteus currently holds the fastest lap. Nieva has finished both of his and has come within about half a second, with Hisada sitting in third currently. And Nikola Kaki looks to be one of those that still has time to finish his second lap here. Here he is on screen now, heading up through Nürburgring that we were talking about, coming into 180. Quite a bit of banking at this corner.
It's a very unique corner here, 180 degrees. You've got a little bit that helps you go through, fighting about there with the car, and then you're just trying to put the power back down as early as possible. The Imola chicane coming up next is a throwback as you fly up the hill. You're looking for that small depression down, and then it's got the uphill left, and it's immediately over to the left-hand side of the circuit, right on your screens, into Chateau d'Eau, a 90-degree right, which again just trails off on the exit. And that's one of the keys here to Magny-Cours, is that a corner is never truly finished around here. It just continues and continues and morphs into the next braking zone.
And of course, finishes off with this little bit of an awkward chicane, but it's oh so important to the lap. Try and get it as quick as you can. Don't cut it too tight, which it looks like Nick has done, as this lap is deleted for him. So he went off somewhere along the line, and that is it for him. No better than fourth in his qualifying. Kurt Clapper has actually set a time. We're starting to see the Clappers actually put one on the board recently. Not sure what changed in that, but as the number 18 carries on, 30 seconds. What do you think, Jake? Does he have enough time to get around?
I think he will. He's on the final stages of the lap here through Chateau d'Eau, and then that run to the Lycée complex. It used to be a chicane first into a right-hander. Now they've turned it into more of an overtaking opportunity in 2003. That's an overtaking opportunity into the corner, and then you've got the tight chicane to end the lap. So just going to get it through with about 5 seconds. Absolutely boulders over the chicane, and as such invalidates the lap time, and that is qualifying set.
All right, so the grid has been locked down here. Only 25 cars were competing with an Indy 500 this morning, so that's why it's a bit of a smaller field, but it sees Andreas Valenteus put it on pole as he'll get to celebrate his championship. Will it be with a win today? He'll be next to Jorge Nieva there on that front row. Toko Hisada will be P3 as Nikola Kaki will start from fourth. You've got Steve Morris in the fifth position and Ben Zocco in P6. John Olsen on the inside of the next row in seventh. Gary Ho starts from eighth. After that, it's Glenn Becker and Marco Salgado on row 5. Jake?
David Rossi will start from 11th with Jari Sakari Rakkonen in 12th position. It's then Jem Matzan and Michael Christinger, the F2 Championship leader and champion-elect, in 14th. It's then Robert Plumley and Björn Ackermann in 16th, along with Sandeep Banerjee and Kurt Clapper, car 18, P18, with his times. Roberto Pangrazzi starts in 19th. Cam Porter, a favourite with us here, is 20th.
Alan Graham starts 21st. David Tomaski will be 22nd. Then it's Jonathan Jourdain in at 23rd. Jason Clapper and Thomas Tuba did not set a time. They'll be our last two on the grid. 25 cars in this field, and looks like most of them are gridded up or just waiting on Jason and Thomas at this stage. Now only Thomas, and looks like that's it. Everybody's out there. We're ready to go as the engines now start to rev and the lights come up for the last round of the season, and the green flag is out. Heading down into the first corner, the Grand Curva. It looks like around the outside, Valenteus will be able to hold on to the lead. And coming up for second, here comes Togo Hisada, trying to see if he can sneak inside, and it looks like he's got it.
That's an important start there by Togo Hisada. He needed the drive, but look at that. Car 6 in all sorts of trouble. That's Gary Ho, buried into the tyres, right rear, completely off the car. So that was him with dramatic contact and consequences with, I believe, John Olsen in the early stages. Biggest braking zone of the lap then, here in towards Adelaide is going to be important, and everybody tiptoes their way through. Nieva back through on his side, but Nicola Cocchi has Ben Shoko for company, and it spins in the back.
That's Grissinger, it looks like, and Roberto Pongrazi going to avoid that, working his way around. Grissinger is going to be able to get going, but one car damaged. It is Pongrazi, actually, it looks like, who has unfortunately clipped somebody and is now pulling off the side of the track. Ben Zocco sitting in 6th position, hot on the heels of Steve Morris as we come up to the Imola chicane. You talked about how difficult it is into this one. Let's see if this will get a mistake out of either of them.
Well, at the moment, Ben Shoko, who's got to get up at very early or stay up very late to race these races all the way over on the other side of the world. He's got himself a massive muscle. He takes a massive hit. Look at him, he's going up through the gears. He's getting massive amounts of torque as he shifts, and he's having to fight the car to stay in a straight line. That just shows you how much effort that's got to go through. Let's go back though, GSRC replay. This is what happened to Gary Ho off of the start. Goes through the Grand Curve without too much trouble at all, but he gets pinched down on the inside, and there's no other way of saying it there. He got caught out with a bucket of netco.
Yeah, that's a real shame to see, because completely plucked the wheel off the car, and there's not much he can do from there. It's a retirement, just too short of a race to try and repair that. Back to Bjorn Ackerman now, down here in 13th position, sitting behind the likes of Plumley and Matsan, both very close in front of him. And as we saw, Adelaide offers up a great chance to try and get a pass as they weave through the kink of golf. A little bit more scary in these cars than modern machinery. And under braking, a huge lock up there for Plumley. He's going to go way wide, give up the position, and behind him, scared off the road, Ackerman can't keep control of it.
Ackerman completely spun it, seeing all of that smoke in front, dived to the inside, and then just couldn't keep the car from spinning around. He over-rotated through. Cam Porter, one of the big beneficiaries of all of this. He has jumped up now from what was 20th at the end of the opening lap now to 15th, and it looks like we've had more smoke down there at 180. That's Sandeep Banerjee, who looks like he's gone a little bit deep into the corner. So everybody is struggling with finding a braking zone around Magny-Cours, because it definitely is one of these circuits that you just wake up and it's corner after corner after corner after corner. You never truly get a chance to rest, except for the run up to Adelaide, where of course the tyres get cold and the brakes get cold.
So let's take another look at that one. I'm assuming this is into Adelaide. So, this is actually Grissinger. So another one from the first lap here. And let's see what caused this. I did kind of see it out of the corner of my eye. I think he just found himself coming to a halt and wound up getting clipped by, I believe that was Pongrazi, who got into the side of him. That explains why he couldn't carry on. Just must have damaged the suspension. Back to Valenteus in the meantime. Gap is only at about 1.1 seconds, and compared to what we've seen in the past, Jake, that's actually close.
Well, we've seen some races this season for Aldris Valenteus where he has had to unlock every single tool in his arsenal to get a victory, and he's been able to do so. His only non-victory out there on the races he's run this season has been at Monza, where he finished in 3rd. The driver who won on that occasion is the driver who just so happens to be behind him right now in Jorge Nieva. He has been scintillating in terms of his form as Aldris. Jorge Nieva and Togo Hisada have been the two drivers to give him any form of challenge. over the course of this season. Sometimes it's been Aldris running away, but on that last lap, Aldris Valentias took 0.4 of a second out of Jorge Nieva. He continues on a rate of knots like this. He'll fly, but Nieva, I think, settled down into a rhythm, and he's going to keep Aldris honest between now and the end of the season, as there is Jari Sakari Raikkonen gaining the place on Cam Porter. Now here comes Kurt Clapper looking for the inside at Imola.
No room there, unfortunately. We ride on board with Jari, looking back into Chateau d'Eau, who can get the car to put the throttle down out of the turn. It looks like it's a great exit by the Finn as he leaves his two rivals in the dust. That's going to be important on the way up to Lycée.
Well, I haven't heard Steve Maurice over the radio too much this season, but that's the first time I've heard him. He's a little bit in a place where he's thinking, right, come on, we've got to get through. It's quite slippery, it's quite tough, but you're certainly sensing that Lycée chicane or complex down at the end is going to be really crucial to today's racing because of how aggressive it is going through. And if you make a mistake on the final lap of the race, Joe, it is so easy to pick up 40 seconds worth of penalty for an unserved slowdown.
Exactly, yeah, you've got to be precise through that chicane. I wonder if it's a make or break for those fighting for position here today, as Plumley is currently seeing what he could do on Banerjee, but neither of them going to lock up this time down into the Adelaide hairpin, both weaving their way around it and then switching back, as Jake described it, folding in on itself, this track, just a series of swift chicanes, and then suddenly they're going to get hit with another of those hairpins. What about Kaki here? This looks like he and Togo Hisada have a bit of a battle brewing.
They certainly do. On that last lap, it was 0.4 in favour of Nicola Cocchi, but Cocchi there, the Italian, runs a little bit deep through the first part of Imola, trying to find an angle on the Japanese driver Togo Hisada. Very difficult to find a way past Togo, but Togo is the sort of driver who can sometimes, Joe, be prone to mistakes, and that's with the way that he sets up a car. I do not know a driver in this series who sets up a car more loose than Togo Hisada does, and sometimes the way that he dances and plays with rear grip, you can very much sense, with a little bit of grass there from, of course, Nicola Cocchi there behind in towards the Grand Curve, now he goes, that you can sense that sometimes Togo Hisada has a car that likes to turn around on him.
Yeah, and it makes him exciting to watch. The only driver I could think of comparable is Ove Traingrade, who also likes a very loose car. Both of them really stunning to join the ride as we're doing here with Kaki coming down through golf. Does he have anything into Adelaide? He could be close enough, even though it looks from far away, and no, not this time.
God, the way he closes up behind one of the most famous engines in all of motorsport, the Ford DFV Cosworth, Nicola Cocchi knows how important it is that he can find a little bit more rotation and try and get through. He's almost got to try and channel that Colin Chapman method of trying to find that third place, which is he needs to add speed and lightness. He can't get the car any lighter, so he needs a bit more speed, Joe.
Exactly. It's all in the driver here. They're in the same machinery out there. Granted, setups might be slightly different, but this series is very open. The drivers love to share that so that they can get anybody involved. And if you are thinking about this, know that it's one of the most inviting communities, honestly, that you're going to find anywhere. As he goes a little bit wider here, does Kaki, compared to Hisada, but that works out much better for Togo. Look at how he pulled away.
Well, that's the thing. It's a 90-degree right-hander, so you can take it the way that you would do street circuits. You can plant it on the apex and then really narrow off the exit to get that drive. The traditional out into out maybe isn't as useful out there for Nicola, but he picks it up brilliantly through the Lycée complex, and now through this section I think he's got a really good chance. He can nail it here through Estoril. He's got a really important run that he's going to get. He has got some brilliant drive here heading through, and on the power it's just a car length and a half rushing through. Now how does he like his Martini livery? Right now he's not shaken. He's definitely trying to stir up Togo Hisada. He's definitely thinking about looking towards the inside, but Hisada's one of the latest breakers out there, but the door has to be left open, and Nicola Cocchi has a perfect pass.
Textbook maneuver from the Italian. That's going to get him onto the podium. I don't think this one's over. Togo's probably going to fight him if he can hold on to the back of that machine as they work their way through Nürburgring up to 180 once again. Let's see how good he is. Oh, did I just see Banerjee have some issues? I thought I saw him lose 2 spots on the timing screen.
He
And these two, oh yeah, there he is right there, Jake.
Yeah, he's in a massive pack right now with the likes of Jari Sakari Raikkonen and, of course, Björn Ackermann, a former F2 champion in this series. The Unicorn is definitely trying to jump on forward, and he will need an Anthony Davis-style wingspan if he wants to jump up ahead of Jari Sakari Raikkonen and Robert Plumley, the world of Kinducci, who is there just in front. So there's definitely opportunities out there to find those places, but you often get that when you get to the Adelaide hairpin. It says it'll search there once again at Chateau d'Eau. You really get the sense that if you lose one position over at Adelaide, you can easily lose two, because with the exception maybe the Spitzkehrer, it's the tightest hairpin in all of iRacing.
Yeah, it's definitely a slow one, and drivers need to be careful through there. Oh, and I think we just had a spin and lost Sandeep Banerjee from the back. He's going to get overtaken by both Clapper and Porter.
Yep, so that's an easy one for those two. They would have had to quickly deviate their lines out of the final chicane and then rush through, and there is Jari Sakari Raikkonen right now getting an advantage, because that's a little dip into the gravel from Robert Plumley, the Londoner. That's going to be so easy for Jari Sakari, who is now going to channel his inner 2002 Kimi Raikkonen. He's just going to have to hope there's no Alan McNish oil patch down there, but look how late on the brakes went Robert Plumley. He'll lose one, and he might have to fight to make sure he doesn't lose two, because Bjorn Ackermann was there, but he's going to lift out of it and decide I'll fight another day.
Interesting to note how quickly these drivers have learned. This is only the second time this series has visited this track. First time was very messy into Adelaide, but I've seen a lot of give and take through there, Jake. It seems like drivers trying to make sure they leave a little space at the apex if they think someone's going to be there.
It's a dance, and you have to leave that room, because the moment you come on the inside of Adelaide is the moment you've got a great chance. Now here is Jason Clapper looking to try and go like the Clappers at the moment here, trying to find any which way he can to get through with Cam Porter, as Aldris Valentias is just lighting the timing sheets purple, now pulling his gap out to 1.6 seconds. But Porter doing well in his defence. Banerjee's going to try and get back into it, but the key right now, if I was Jason Clapper, I wouldn't even begin thinking about battling Cam Porter right now. There's bigger fish to fry. Well, you can run wide. That will certainly not help, and Sandeep Banerjee's going to pick one up straight through at the Lycée chicane, as wide goes Porter as well. But the big fish, if they stop tripping over each other right now here, Joe, is Ackermann, Plumley, and Raikkonen.
Lycée, oh, massive accident here, as we just see a glimpse of it on screen from Cam Porter, who gets flipped over again. Cars tangling wheels through Grand Prix, and unfortunately this time it wasn't just a wheel removed, it was wheels off the ground.
It was upside down for Cam Porter, but I have to say there, Joe, and on my briefest glimpse of what happened in that incident, I think that's all on Cam. He tried to be aggressive out there. The move was made by Sandeep Banerjee. He tried to be cheeky and sneak up back underneath. So you're going to see here, Banerjee finds a way through at the inside. Look at that, an aggressive up and under, and he just tags the wheel. There just wasn't enough room there to really commit to that really big up and under. And as such, Cam Porter goes for a roller coaster ride.
Shame for him to end the season that way, as Cam has certainly progressed in a number of ways with his speed, but he's not going to be able to take part in the remainder of this race. Back to Jason Clapper now, once again in 16th, as we watch them come through the Imola chicane up to Chateau d'Eau. Looks like he's not going to be able to be close enough to Banerjee this time, although Banerjee's been making mistakes. Both of them have in this race. Who can keep it on the island?
Yeah, it's those sorts of conditions that you've got out here today. Track temperature, I would say, is quite ideal at 33 degrees Celsius, so you're talking about 60, 70 up there at this point. Wind's not really playing too much of a factor at this moment, but I think one thing to keep in mind is that they've got pretty much every amount of humidity that's there. There's the look down to the inside from Jason Clapper. He makes it easy, but Sandy, you've got to wake up, because you've got the F2 champion-elect at this moment trying to find a way through. Michael Grissinger trying to play with the angle through at Estoril. Ann's going to get the drive off the exit. Buckets of understeer for Sandeep, as he could not put the power down for losing that place earlier, and as such having no mechanical grip to play with.
Oh, now it's going to be a game of chicken under braking. Sandeep a little bit later. Is he too late? He tries to steer it down in, keeps it around the outside and rides the rim. He might actually be able to steal this one back. Grissinger cannot complete the pass, and he slots back into line.
He does, so that's a nice move to save place there for Sandeep Banerjee, and now he'll use the middle sector of the lap to try and run away as much as possible. That is going to be his key in terms of how this race goes on. I do want to pay a little bit of attention, though, to the bottom half of the top 10, about 7th, 8th and 9th, because they've been stuck together for the majority of this race. We're about to start the halfway laps. We focus on Jem Matzan in 11th place right now. I do want to focus on John Olsen, Marco Antonio Lopez and Glenn Becker. Those three have been fantastic here today in just staying out of trouble, trying to run the course, and they'll be hoping that Maurice and Shoko decide they want to battle in the second half of this race.
Yeah, Mick Claridge was talking to us before the race saying those drivers were looking like they'd be very tightly compacted together. Glenn Becker at the back of this trio currently, trailing on Salgado. Don't think we're seeing anybody close enough this time into the braking of Adelaide. Another one of our onboard cameras here, Glenn Becker, not only shows us what he's experiencing, it's showing what his heart is experiencing.
Well, 120 beats per minute, I would say he hasn't really had too much panic over the course of this race. I think he's been in a position where he's in his own world. You can see he's got the virtual reality goggles on his head at this moment, steering in, trying to get as much as he can out of it. But it's going to be a case of, will that spike up if A, an incident happens in front, or B, and I think this is the more important one in terms of the way he's looking at his race, if he decides he wants to be aggressive and make those moves. This is going to be, for him, a nice calm start to the race. I think he's plateaued in the middle, knowing, right, time to get through the meat and potatoes, and he's waiting for dessert in the final 5 laps of the race where he says, right, I'm going to try and demolish this and gain a couple places.
French dessert sounds delicious. We'll see if he manages to get it, but he's not close enough at this stage to John Olsen as they hit the last part of it. Watching Zoko versus Maurice here as they go through the Lycée chicane. Like we were saying, drivers need to be careful, and if you're wondering what we were talking about, if you cut the course, if the iRacing is deemed that you have gone too far to the inside of a corner and have taken too much out of it, it will automatically give you a time penalty that you must either give back, and if you don't, you either get a black flag, or if you cross the line for the checkered flag, it is added to your race time. That's why that is such a tough ending to this track.
It is, and it's one of the most unique finish lines out there. It's so close, and Marco Antonio Lopez again searching for the inside, hoping that there is opportunity out there to make position. The molten machine that he is driving with at the moment is trying to do what it can to get through, and that is a slight mistake. They're going through at Nürburgring for John Olsen. Slightly misses the apex there. Can't be capitalised here through 180, but it allows a half a tenth back in the form of Marco Antonio Lopez, who is going to do everything in his power to make sure there's a mistake for John Olsen, who will feel very fortunate that he's still in this race after the almost contact that he had. You will pretty much have to say that it was contact on the opening corner of the race with Gary Hardo.
I wonder if Glenn Becker behind them is just kind of waiting to see if the two of them start battling. We're down to 9 laps to go now. So he's going to run out of time sooner rather than later, but he still has a little bit to stay patient. Eventually, if they don't start tussling, he's going to have to get in there.
Yeah, he's going to have to start jumping in, and, you know, he can't wait forever. This isn't going to be a race where you can wait for time in itself to get through. There is a set limit to this race, and you do have to make your move in the time available, and that's why the closer you get to the end of the race, one move here or there becomes all the more important. Rushing about, trying to find the point from 130 kilometers an hour, 140, 150 now, fully on the power. This moment, trying to find a way to escape. This is where you are really going to notice the power come down and everybody searching about for places on the brakes, getting it done at Adelaide. But once more, it's a case of everyone's got slipstream on everyone else. There's not really a way that you can find that move. You've got to really set it up here at Magny-Cours. This is a driver's circuit.
It's looking a little bit tough, that is for sure. Now, we can continue to watch this. Just want to note something. I was watching that tower, and we're going to switch over to Togo Hisada, who's just behind them. Valenteus and Nieva, much farther apart than they were a few laps ago. It was still at about 1.2 seconds, and now it's at 4. Yeah, what happened?
It was a slowdown penalty going through the Nürburgring chicane, lap 10. He just got so heavy over the inside curve. He took air and had to basically abandon ship in terms of his run. That's what opened up the gap with a 38.9, so he lost a second through there, and it's taken him these last couple of laps to try and really settle back into rhythm. Now he's effectively 4 seconds behind Valenteus and 4 seconds ahead of Nicola Cocchi in third. This is going to be a lonely race for Jorge Nieva, which will effectively seal his second place in the championship.
And that is not a car for position behind him. That's Jourdain, who he has lapped. Yeah, as you can see, it's a pretty big gap between Nieva and Cocchi as well. So not in any sort of battle at this stage. Still, we've been saying it for some time. Jorge Nieva is on the cusp of a championship. He's been so close. I actually need to check the stats and see. I want to say he's been second or third in the points, something like 4 or 5 times now.
You have to look at Jorge Nieva and think that from season to season to season, he is constantly improving. He is always someone out there who is giving drivers food for thought, and he is someone who pretty much constitutes all the great skills that are needed of a champion. He's a very consistent driver. Yes, he's had a mistake today. He keeps the pace up, he keeps drivers interested, and he's a thinking driver. Always thinks about what's the best thing in the end run of the game, and that's why he is such a tough character to race against. The one issue that he's found today, and in fact all season, Joe, is that Aldrius Valenteus is quite simply put an alien. He is 9,200 in his iRating, and I think in terms of classics, Aldrius Valenteus is the next Cherno Freacher.
It's certainly looking like it. And checking back in with Glenn Becker now in this great little battle. A little closer than what we saw before. He could have a good shot. I double-checked, and if things finish as they are, this will be the 4th top 3 finish that Nieva has had in the points. And also, you talked about the iRating. Nieva's up to 6,000 iRating. That is not small. That's actually a pretty darn high iRating. So Jorge Nieva has gone from an F2 champion to now being one of the big dogs.
You have to consider that when everyone's got an iRacing account, you get 1,500 iRating. Someone like me, for example, who's driving on an Xbox controller, Yari Sakari is in a world of hurt at the opening section of the track. You don't go off that far without any reason for it, and the answer is he's tangled with Jem Matan after trying to make an audacious move down the inside at the opening corner. He got turned for his troubles as he went through. But to go back to the iRating point, everyone's got iRating. About 1,500 is bang stock average. If you've got 2,500 iRating, you're inside the top 10% of all iRacers, believe it or not. If you're up at 4,000, you're inside the top 5%. 6,000, you're in the top 2% of all iRacers. You've got to remember, though, that 9,200 iRating puts Aldrius Valenteus as top 100 in the world.
And that was a big look there from Becker. I thought maybe he was going to have a go at things into Imola, but decided to back out of it. Probably wise with how that corner is. Still, I think he's got Salgado thinking about him, watching the mirrors now.
Yep, so Glenn Becker is now really hoping that he's got a way to make this move. He's trying to force mistakes out there, and John Olsen, I think, is doing just about everything to keep these drivers behind. There's Michael Grissinger going a little slowly out there at this moment in time, so he's going to be in a little bit of trouble out here at the moment. Down the inside goes Sandeep Banerjee, looking for place, but not necessarily going to be able to find that. And that was a recovering Raikkonen, which was why there was a case of slowness there for Grissinger, and it's opened up the door for Banerjee because he had a bit of contact going into Imola. Look at this from Banerjee, aggressive on the inside, but he gets pinched out of it. Brilliant driving by Grissinger.
Amazingly, that didn't count as a cut course for Michael, as I did not see a slowdown flag for him. Meanwhile, we come back to John Olsen. Salgado has recovered from the attack from Becker. Now he's going to try to turn the tables, see if he can get his nose in there as they head up towards 180. Just a little too tough to try and make a pass into this corner, I think.
Look how wide he goes in on entry. He's trying to desperately get the exit out, but he understeers. He carried a little bit too much through the mid part of the corner. Now look behind. This is where Glenn Becker's going to wake up. Think, can I get to the inside? No. Just shows himself in the mirrors. Rule 1 of sim racing. If you want to make a pass, make the car look as wide as possible so that it's everywhere. Try and force drivers into mistakes. Doesn't often work. And Glenn Becker throws one in and realizes, hang on a minute, I've actually still got to turn.
I think his heart rate must have reached drum and bass levels there for a second. That would have been scary, almost plowing into Salgado. Let's see if he can recover as he's lost a few car lengths, definitely taking that wide entry here into the final chicane and bumping over the inside curb.
Whereas it might have gone from drum and bass. If he gets into an incident, it might go to trap music and then it might go full dubstep. It's that level of struggle that Glenn Becker's got in terms of getting it slowed down. Björn Ackermann, by the way, lost the position over to Jim Matzan, or was trying to get the move done on Jim Matzan for position, but it went wide at 180, and as such, Björn Ackermann now has fallen behind, and once more the recovering Jari Sakari Raikkonen is now trying to find his way through. So is this going to be a case of Raikkonen, who of course has gone around once, looking desperately to get back here at Jem Matzan? And Jem, look at that front nose right now on his Lotus 49. How often do you see the feet showing?
That's a good point, and it seems as though drivers are getting a little bit of damage out there. Matzan going to slam onto the brakes. Thankfully not a track where he needs that aerodynamic advantage as much, but wow, the traction advantage for Bjorn just about gave him the spot.
Almost. That's the key. It was an almost. You can get drive off of the exit, but it's just that. Squirreling over the curbs at the Nürburgring, and now into 180. Watch out, Jari Sakari locks it up behind. And that was a case of him trying to be uber aggressive. I have not seen him so aggressive before. And Bjorn just went, nope, I'm not having any of that. If you're going to drive like that, you go through sunshine, you try and run your own race.
I mean, in the old days, there were drivers that were as focused on just trying to finish the race. So it seems almost appropriate that here in this series, you do get a bit of that as well, where drivers will pull off to the side if they don't want to have any part of someone they deem a bit of a danger. Meanwhile, Salgado versus Olsen. They're starting to drop Becker after he got close a couple times to running into the back of Marco. Is this now Marco's good chance to try and fight without having to worry about that rear guard? He's not going to be close enough into the hairpin.
Well, the issue he's running into is he's not taking the right line through Estoril. He needs a line at Estoril that's going to give him the opportunity to attack. He's too narrow in the middle part of the corner. It just completely opens out the exit. That's what he's got to do. He's got to try and out-exit John Olsen, but John Olsen's driving brilliantly here. His car is set up every corner for how do I maximize the exit. There's nothing that Marco Antonio Lopez can do except stare at the back of that engine.
Now he's going to have to get much closer than this. Just a little too slow off of some of these corners. He needs to position himself well, that is for sure. You may have seen at the top of the screen that Valenteis took another fastest lap up there, down to a 37 at 2:17. Nieves keeping him honest on that, though. 37.294 for Jorge, just about 0.08 of a second off of him.
Yeah, but the consistency's gone for Nieva at this point. He lost half a second on that last lap. The gap's now out to nearly 6, and Valenteis, right, in terms of his racing right now, Joe, it's someone like Jorge Nieva can match him over one lap, but nobody can match Valenteis, who can do these fastest laps 20 laps in a row. He is simply a machine.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that is so stunning about Adrius, the way that he is able to just pick him up and put him down, and he's frighteningly consistent. You don't often see mistakes out of him, and when you do, he often is able to pick it back up and make up for his errors. As we head over to Cocky now, sitting in third. We were talking about drivers with quiet races. Ever since he left Togo Hisada behind, well, it's just been kind of the Italian all by his lonesome.
Yeah, 5 seconds to Jorge Nieva, 10 seconds back it's Togo Hesada. I think this for Nicola is what he's wanted here at the end of this season, a nice calm way to get himself situated, tackle a full season next time out. And if Nicola wants to challenge for a title next season or get himself battling in for that podium, he's definitely got the pace to do so. And I think everyone else realizes that Nicola isn't here just to make up the numbers. He's come to play, he's had a bit of a hiatus, he's come back and he looks good. Togo Hesada, it's not often that you see him looking a little lost out there in 4th position, and he does have to be slightly concerned right now with his pace, because on that last lap he lost a second to Ben Shoko, and Shoko 38.5 to another 7/10. So Togo Hesada right now is being reeled in by Shoko and Maurice.
I'm not sure if it's enough laps left for them to try and catch him. We'll see. Regardless, Togo, we have to remember, is a 3-time champion in this series. Ben Soko, no, excuse me, that's Damaski, so that's a lapped car that he is going by right now. And David doing the nice thing and allowing them through as Steve Morris also sneaks by. He's in a close battle for this top 5 position, and again, we nearly see contact.
Yeah, that's about as close as you're going to get it there at that section of road. Benjamin Shoko. I've just had a little look back there. That is very similar to Raikkonen 05 on Button when the tyre delaminated. It was that close. It was as close as you want it. So Steve Morris is just putting everything he can as close to Benjamin Shoko, hoping it's all going to stick. But with a lap and a bit to go, how on earth does anybody find pace to stop Adrius Valentines? It looked like he was going to have a bit of a battle in the second half of the season when Alton Park came around and the middle of the season became quite crucial. Also got to consider Indy was rather close too, but he has come out smelling of roses every single time. Adrius Valentines, nearly on his own right now, Joe, could pick up the nation's car.
Well, I'm not sure if it will, though, because it's only going to be a 5-point difference between first and second. I think Nieva will allow the Spanish contingent to be able to bring this one home. Even still, I want to say that Adrius has been our only Lithuanian driver contributing points this season. I'll need to double check on that, whereas Spain has had a couple fast drivers throughout the season. So this has been a lone man effort to bring it up into P2.
Yeah, so this is wonderful stuff by Valentines in terms of how he's been putting it all together. But as you just watch him, he is never out of control of this Lotus, one of the toughest beasts to tame in iRacing. And he just drives in such a way that makes it look like it's on rails. Look how early he's turning in, even while the car's still pitched down as he's braking. He does things that other drivers just simply put can't, Joe. And that's why he is the most deserving champion we've seen in a very long while.
Well, it seems kind of fitting that an alien has NASA on his car. He's been out of this world this season. And as he comes through the last few corners, it is going to be 9 out of 12 victories. Unbelievable stuff. Valentines, your champion and winner.
Totally unstoppable, and Jorge Nieva had nothing for him today. Couldn't get close enough. Nicola Cocchi will pick up the last spot on the podium, but there will be some great racing towards the end, and traffic. David Tomaszki here for Olsen, for Becker, and for Marco Antonio Lopez. Becker's through on Lopez, but I think they're going to run out of time there. Steve Morris, close, no cigar in terms of getting by Benjamin Shoko. Great by for Ben.
Yeah, wonderful race from both of them. How about Olsen withstanding the pressure from both cars behind that entire race to get himself a 7th place in the end. From there, it gets to be a bit of a gap down to Rossi, Plumley, and everybody else behind. It was kind of a haves and have-nots in terms of pace here today as Plumley bounds over those last couple apex curbs and finishes himself up in 11th place. Some of the drivers celebrating the end of the season.
Yeah, as is customary, all these drivers look to try and celebrate their achievements as much as they can as they go through. Jem Matzan making his way through, but we've also got one to crown. Michael Grissinger will be making his way to the line and will be the F2 champion on a bunch of consistent displays of performance.
and getting himself a 17th place today should be a handy haul of points for sure. Graham going to be our last driver across the line, which means it's time for a short break. We will be back, though. We'll have the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Welcome back. We are here at Magny-Cours, where we saw the last round of the season for the Grand Prix Legends Series. And as fitting for the way that this season went, Andreas Valentaius took the last win of the season and had already claimed the championship, but puts a nice little bow on it over Jorge Nieva, who did his best, but came home about 7 seconds shy. Nicola Kaki going to round out the podium. Toga Hisada didn't have the speed today, interestingly, and was well off of Nicola in the end, but still gets a 4th place. Zoko behind him in 5th with Steve Maurice, and a great battle with Ben all race long to finish P6. John Olsen, Becker, and Salgado also found themselves tussling for that 7th, 8th, and 9th. And David Rossi, I don't think we even mentioned him once, gets himself a top 10.
Well, that's the way you want to do it. Quiet race gets it done. Robert Plumley will find himself up in 11th place with Jason Clapper, and the adventurous display of driving from Jari Sakari Raikkonen, who was up, down, all around, had a trip in the gravel at one point. Björn Ackermann will find himself 14th, and Jem Matzan, with damage to the front, in 15th. We saw Sandy Banerjee a little bit around over the course of this race. He'll pick up 16th ahead of Michael Grissinger, the F2 champion, with Kurt Clapper and Alan Graham 18th and 19th. David Tomaszki would mark the first driver a lap down in 20th.
And we get to Jonathan Jourdain, who finished 21st, also a lap down, and to our DNFs. Cam Porter, 22nd. Gary Ho, Pangrazi, and Tuba was a did not start for this race. It looks like we might have our second place finisher ready to talk to us, Jorge Nieva. Let's get his thoughts on how this one went. Jorge, second on the track, second in the points after all is said and done. It looked like you had pace to try and hold on to Adrius. Was it all down to the cut course penalty you got at one point?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, but it was really hard to follow him. I was pushing too hard, and that off track was the end for my race.
Now, we were going over some of your stats and realized this will be your fourth top three finish in the points in the championship, in the F1 championship. Is this something where you're getting tired of being so close to the championship, or are you still riding the high of the progress that you've made from when you first came into GPL?
I love driving. I don't care about the position. I think I've improved over these years, but I'm still far from the aliens. But well, I'm trying to follow them, and sometimes I can do it.
I think you do yourself a bit of injustice. We were kind of wowed that you are at 6,000 iRating now. I think you can call yourself one of those aliens. But what does this do for you next season? Are you looking forward to coming in again, or are you going to be sticking around and giving another go?
I was thinking about trying the 79, but I'm really, really bad with that car, so probably I'll stick with the 49 and try to get another podium if sometimes Togo or Seb misses any races.
Well, we'll watch for you in both. I'd love to see you fight in the 79. And again, congratulations on second place.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Jorge Nieva is grateful as always. Always love that positive attitude he has, Jake. Let's see if Nicola Kaki is just as happy.
We certainly will, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to him now. Nicola, it's an important P3 today here for you. It's one where all of these drivers up at the front are showing that they've got incredible pace. For you, it was all about unlocking that move against Togo Hasada. Talk us through the pass.
Yeah, hi guys. I did like stupid mistakes in the quali, and I completely ruined it. So I was starting, I think one place farther in the back. So to couple with that, I also did the mistakes in the start of the race because I wasn't aggressive enough. I was too scared of a contact, so I let another car pass by, and at that moment it was like a little bit recovery first and racing second. And so I was able to stick around with Togo. I don't think he had any practice at all, so I couldn't explain his difference in pace otherwise. So I was able to pass him, and after that I was pushing, but I realized that the track was weird, if you ask me. It looked like it was very low grip, as very often happens with iRacing. So I had no bite on my front tires, so I had to relearn the track a little bit during the race, and I was kind of okay in the second half of the race. So I just kept pushing. I think I was able to recover a couple of seconds on Jorge, but I was way too far back to try anything else. So I guess a podium will be okay.
Well, podium was certainly very good for you. Talk about then the weather conditions in terms of iRacing's weather system, because it looks like that when you've got this Lotus 49, the way that you're talking about it, this car reacts to weather very differently to a lot of other pieces of machinery out there on the iRacing service. Does that give you that extra little bit of challenge, and is one of the things that you enjoy when it comes to racing this machinery?
Yeah, well, I think it's better this way, even if it's harder, because this way you can have a little bit of difference, some kind of variables you cannot write 100% predict. So the races are a little bit more varied and a little bit more, unpredictable. And this, I think, this is a realistic aspect. And it's another aspect from my driver's perspective view, to be faster to learn, to be faster to understand what you need to change in your driving style to fit that track in that particular moment. And on top of that, you also add the fuel that is going to be burned, and the car is going to change the balance a little bit. So I like this car because it's a very it's a very big packet to understand as a driver with from the driving style perspective, and I like it very much.
What for you next season is going to be considered a good season in terms of finishing position in the championship?
Well, next season will be like full summer season for me, and my main focus this season, with this current season, was to try to get at least 10 races, and I think I had like 6, maybe 7, so not achieved at all. And for the next season, it's going to be even harder because, for some reason, from vacation and everything is going to be even less present. And so just like Jorge said, I don't really care about spots in the podium or position. I just like to drive, and I like the competition, the racing with all the guys. So every race I can be in is going to be a good thing for me. And I just hope to get to be able to fight at least those 10 races. But to be honest, I don't think it will happen. Maybe in the winter season is going to be easier.
You like to drive, you like the podiums. You've got a podium here today. The floor is yours, though, Nicola. Anybody you'd like to thank?
Oh yeah. First of all, I want to give a shout to Seb Tixier, because he's watching from his home right now. He had a little problem with with his health, so he's not racing with us. From I don't know, a few weeks, since a few weeks now. And I just want to tell him that we are waiting for him, and I very wish best things that can happen, and we can't wait to have him back. And I want also to thank the community and all the the openness of sharing setups and telemetry, in particular to the faster guy, and in particular to Audrius, because it's very rare to have like a guy that fast that he will be willing to share his secrets, basically, and allows all the rest of the community to improve and to study and to get more deeper in this hobby, which we like so much. And of course, it's the end of the season, so thank you guys for the amazing work that you do with the broadcast.
Yeah, no worries at all. Some wonderful driving there from Nicola Kotki, who manages to pick up what was an important race result today, a 3rd position overall, Joe.
And that takes us to our champion in the Formula 2 standings, Michael Grissinger. Michael, congratulations, your first ever F2 championship. How does it feel? Oh, might not have Michael hooked up here on his microphone. Let's see if we've got him. Michael, do you have a copy? Let's see if we can give him just a moment in case we can get that hooked up. And I'm not sure if we'll get to chat with him here. That's a bit of a shame. I was looking forward to seeing his feelings, especially since I've been calling Michael's races for many years for now. So we'll give it one more shot. Michael, do you have a copy?
That's there.
There he is. Now he's here.
I purchased the 49 in pre-offer 10 years ago. Unlike some of our experts, I'm not that good. So this season, I guess I concentrated on just being, as I put it, consistently mediocre, and that worked out. I did the big crashes, misplaced in the middle. Can't really expect much more when the top 15 are full of Division 1 guys who are just much happy with this result, and close thing through most of the season, I think.
Well, it's been fun watching you competing over the years. As I mentioned, been following you for a long time. What draws you to this Lotus 49 over other stuff?
Sometime around 1998, I bought Grand Prix Legends, and I'm consistently mediocre there too. I never got negative in the low rank. I think I'm a plus 20. Never did Master of the Ring. But because of that papyrus history, it got into iRacing, and because of 49, as soon as it was offered, I jumped in here. And really, the thing for this community is just the sense of camaraderie, the gentlemanly driving. GSRC, you guys all shout out for sure. It's a community that drives like they actually care about the car and not like after week, even though the timing is awful. And Saturday mornings are not my favorite time for sure.
I completely understand what you mean. I would sleep in if I could too, but not going to miss this series. And again, congratulations. It's awesome to see you take the title.
And thanks to all of you guys for all the service over the years to keep this going. I don't know if it would be as popular without you, but it's definitely.
Well, thank you very much. It's obviously one that's personal to me too, since I also love this car a lot. That's Michael Grissinger, our champion here for the Formula 2 this season. I think that's going to wrap us up, though. So we want to also give a big thank you back to the Lotus 49 community for bringing us on for another season of coverage. And also thanks to the team today, Daniel, Jake, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. Should be back Saturday, June 15th, again at 9:30 a.m. Eastern on a Saturday. So wake up for it yourself to watch. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts listed here because IMSA Vintage, much like IndyCar, is going to Detroit at 1 p.m. Eastern today. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.
Yeah.